So very good morning to you all. We are discussing unit number 2, solar systems. So this unit solar system is from the open elective course, Space Science. Today's topic from the solar system is the fundamental laws. We are going to study some of the basic fundamental laws which going to describe the motion of the planets in the orbit. We are going to consider some of the universal laws. With the help of these universal laws, we are going to study the planetary motion of the particles. So for today's topic is the fundamental laws, namely Bode's laws, Kepler's laws of planetary motion, and Newton's law of motion for the correction of the Kepler's formula. So here the third law which we are going to be studying is the Newton's law of motion. Here in this Newton's law of motion, we are going to study the correction from the Kepler's formula. So the today's objective, as we all know that there are many universal laws which are associated with the fundamental theories of space science. There are many universal laws which are associated with the fundamental theories of space science. For example, what we are going to see for today's class, we can say Bode's law, we can say Kepler's law, and we can say the Newton's law. So there are many planetary laws, so that we are going to be study. So that's why we just said that there are many universal laws which are associated with the fundamental theories of space objects. And we are going to study the relationship between the planets. The relationship between the planets which orbiting in the space, the relationship between the planets which orbiting in the space. So for the today's objective, we are going to consider the fundamental theories of the space object. In addition to these fundamental theories of the space object, we are going to study the orbital motion of the planet in the space. The introduction for our today's topic, the universal law, are all interrelated and are founded that everything in the universe is made up of energy. The universal laws are interrelated and are found that everything in the space is the composite of energies. And also it defined that the energies are moving in a circular fashion. So these are all the assumption. the energies are moving in an circular fashion. So as we know that the energies are just moving in an circular fashion and also in an elliptical fashion. Also in an elliptical fashion. So at the microscopic level, we are having a bristling mass of electrons and the energy atoms spinning rapidly. Excuse me. So for this today's just a topic, we have considered the mind map for it. So from this mind map, we can able to see the contents which we have considered for the today's lecture. The topic is the Bode's law. The second topic is the Kepler's law of the planetary motion. And the third topic is the Newton's law of gravitation. So we are considering the fundamental basic laws from this chapter solar system. So the fundamental basic laws are nothing but the Bode's laws. So here from the Bode's law, we are going to study the planetary distance. We are going to study the planetary distance. So the planetary distance is the distance between the two planets. The distance between the two planets that we are going to be study from this Bode's law. So from the second hypothesis, Kepler's law of the planetary motion, we are going to see how the planet is going to be orbiting in the space. So here, the planet is orbiting in the space via three processes. So as per the Kepler's assumption, he has formulated three types of the laws to define the motion of the planet in the space. They are Kepler's first law, Kepler's second law, and Kepler's third law. And finally, we are going to see the Newton's law of gravitation. So here, this Newton's law of gravitation is involved in the making the correction of the Kepler's third law of the planetary motion. So here, this Newton's law of gravitation is considered to make the correction, or to change the things which was mentioned in the Kepler's law of the planetary motion. So let's see the first law. It's the Bode's law. So the Bode's law, it also known as Titus-Bode law. So this law predicts the spacing of the planets in the solar system. As I already informed that. So from this first law, Bode's, we are going to study only the distance. We are going to study the distance between the planets. So as we know that a solar system consisting of totally the 9 planets as per the olden prediction, but later on it was changed into the 8 planets. But from this Bode's law, we are measured the planetary distance in the solar system for the 7 planets. So the first 7 planet distance are measured with respect to these Bode's just a hypothesis in the solar system. So the relation was first pointed out by Johannes Titus in the year 1766, and then it was formulated by J.E. Bode in the form of a mathematical expression in the year 1778. So the first law is the Bode's law. It is also known as Titus-Bode law. So this law predicts the spacing of the planet in the solar system. As we all know that the solar system consisting of 9 planets as per the Walton prediction. But later on, it was mentioned that it contains 8 planets. And here in this Bode's law, they have measured the distance of the planets in the solar system. That a distance is measured for the 7 considered planets, first 7 considered planets. So this relationship was first studied by the scientist Johannes Titus in the year 1766, and later it was formulated as the mathematical expression in the year of 1778 by the scientist J.E. Bode. See here, the prediction that existence of another planets between the Mars and the Jupiter. So what they have predicted, they predicted that there is another object, there is another mass which located in between the orbits of Mars and the Jupiter. And they recognized that that orbit is nothing but an asteroid belt. They recognized that that orbit is nothing but an asteroid belt. So in the previous class, we have learned that the object which located in the asteroid belt, it's called the Sera. The object which locates in the asteroid belt, it's called Sera. So these Sera, it comes under the dwarf planet. These Sera, it comes under the dwarf planet. As we all know that there are 5 dwarf planets. There are 5 dwarf planets. So one of the planet is the Sera, which present within the solar system. The remaining 4 planets which are behind the solar system, so they are in the Kuiper's belt. They are located in the Kuiper's belt. So the 2 types of the belts we have studied in the last class, they are asteroid belt and the Kuiper's belt. Asteroid belt which will be located in between the solar system, the Kuiper's belt which will be located beyond the solar system. So this is the Bode's hypothesis. So it was also known as the Titus-Bode's law. The law predicts the spacing of the planets, distance between the planet in the solar system. The relation was first studied by the scientist Johannes Titus in 1766, and later on it was formulated as the mathematical expression in 1778 by the scientist J.E. Bode. That's why it called as Titus-Bode law. It leads to predict the existence of the another planet in the solar system. Within the solar system, that planet is orbited in between the Mars and the Jupiter, that orbited in the asteroid belt. So that is a Sera. It's named as a dwarf planet. So it defined as the principle for the Bode's law. The mean distance of the planets from the sun. So we are measuring the spacings between the planets. Here the spacing is nothing but the distance of the planets from the sun. So to measure these Bode's distance, they have formulated a mathematical expression, that is Pn is equal to Po into An, where Pn is the period of orbit of a nth planet. We can consider any planet from the sun. Po is the period of sun's rotation. If we are considering the first planet Mercury, so we have to measure the rotation of it. An is the semi-major axis of the orbit. Semi-major axis of the orbit is nothing but the radius. Is nothing but the radius of the particular orbit. So the Bode's law states that the mean distance of the planets from the sun, it is given by Pn is equal to Po into An, where Pn is the period of orbits of the nth planet, Po is the period of the sun's rotation, and An is the semi-major axis of the orbit. So this important formula in this unit.
Hello, sir.
The
Sir,
explanation, yeah.
sir, actually the rotation around the sun is elliptical now. Hello.
Yeah, tell me, ma. The rotation around the sun is?
Elliptical in
Yeah,
Kepler's law.
elliptical, actually
So,
elliptical.
so how they are taking the semi-major axis, sir? Because it's not circular. So how we should take semi-major axis?
So actually these are the predictions. So this is the first prediction given by the bodies. So he assumed this one. He assumed this one. So later on, his assumption is converted into the failure one. So the failure for the reason and the advantages for that will be explained in further. Okay. So let me first I complete. So after that you can start your interaction.
Okay,
So
sir.
it's the assumption actually. So this is the assumption made by the scientist bodies along with the Johannes Titus. So they just predicted that the motion of the planet around the sun is in a circular. So that only we are seeing here. So there are many hypotheses is here, many assumption is here, which gives the correct formation of the rotation that we are seeing in later. Is it?
Okay, sir.
So, okay. So according to this Bode's law, this is an assumption made by the bodies. We are discussing only the body's assumption here. We are not here confirming that the motion it's an elliptical, it's not in a circular. We are not just distinguish these two things here, but we are just studying the assumption what made by the body along with the Johannes Titus. So they defined that the mean distance of the planets from the sun. So according to the Bode's law, we just formulated a mathematical expression that is Pn is equal to P naught into An. Pn is the period of orbit of a nth planet. P naught is the period of the sun's rotation, and An is the semi-major axis of the orbit. See, so this is the just assumption. Everything is an assumption because they are predicted some theory, and they are just given the invention of their what they just thought, what they think, and what they saw. So based on that only they have given some basic assumption. So that basic assumption in terms in future, it may be acceptable by some other person or it degraded by some other person. That we are going to see. So here according to this Bode's law, just to find the mean distance of the planet, a small assumption here made by the body is to measure the distance of the planet from the sun. To find the mean distance of the planets from the sun, they begin with the following simple sequence of numbers. So these are all their assumption. They begin with the simple sequence of numbers. They consider 0, 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, 192, 384. So we can able to see and we can say that so these numbers are added one another by one. So 3 plus 3 6, 6 plus 6 12, 12 plus 12 24, 24 plus 24 48. Similarly it goes 96, it goes 192, it goes 384. So this is their first prediction. Second, with the expectation of the first two, the others are simple twice the values of the predicted number. Now, let us add 4 to each number. So this is the second prediction. They have added 4 with these above shown numbers. So 0 plus 4, it became 4. 3 plus 4, it became 7. 6 plus 4, it becomes 10. 12 plus 4, it became 16. Likewise, 24 becomes 28. 48 becomes 52. 96 became 100. 192 becomes 196. 384 becomes 388. Then followed by, they divided this number with 10. It becomes 0.4, 0.7, 1.0, 1.6, 2.8, 5.2, 10.0, 19.6, and finally 38.8. So these results, the prediction which made by the bodies. So they are comparing this value with the actual distance. So it shows the near similarity. It is almost equal that the values which was predicted by the body's assumption, the values which measured from the sun to the planets, it's almost same, nearly equal to its actual distance. So this makes bodies to be formulated this predicted law. So according to this body's hypothesis, they measured the distance between the planets. So for Mercury, the actual distance in Armstrong unit 0.39. According to their hypothesis, assumption, prediction, it's 0.4. For Venus, the actual distance is 0.72. According to their prediction, it's 0.7. For Earth, the actual distance is 1.0. Prediction is 1.0. For Mars, actual distance 1.52. Prediction 1.6. For Neptune, the actual distance is 3.0. Their prediction is 2.8. For Jupiter, the actual distance is 5.20. Their prediction is 5.2. For Saturn, the actual distance is 9.54. Their prediction is 10. And finally, for Uranus, their actual distance is 19.19, but their prediction is 19.6. See, from the graph, we can see that we have just plotted the graph with respect to the log value. Here, the dots are shown the orbiting distance of the planets. So here, according to their hypothesis, according to their assumption, they just shown that there is an object which located in between the Jupiter and the Mars. So when the object is located in between the Jupiter and the Mars, that object, it's called as a dwarf object. So these are the third types of the planet, dwarf planet. So these dwarf planet will orbit in the asteroid belt. So these things we have seen. So these are the predictions from the body's law. See, Titus Bolt, spacing of the planet in the solar system. The first formulation made in the year 1766. Then later a mathematical expression was given by J.E. Bode in the year 1778. They predicted that, actually it's an assumption, they assumed that the existence of another planet is between the Mars and the Jupiter. So this planet is recognized as the dwarf planet. So this is a drift planet which locates in between the asteroid belt. So it defined as the mean distance of the planet from the sun. So from the sun to the various planet, we can measure the distance. To measure the distance, they formulated the mathematical expression, that is a Pn is equal to P naught into An. Pn is the period of orbit of the nth planet. Po is the period of the sun's rotation, and An is the semi-major axis of the orbit. So from these, their prediction. So initially they have considered a simple sequence number 0, 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, 192, 384. Then this number is added by the 4. Then it becomes 4, 7, 10, 16, 28, 52, 100, 196, 338. Then it divided by 10. So it becomes 4, 0.4, 0.7, 1, 1.6, 2.8, 5.2, 10, 19.6, 38.8. So this value is compared with the actual value, and they shows the near similarity. So this is the history behind the planetary motion. So this mind map is going to show the total assumption. So we are studying the basic class. We are studying the motion of the planet in the space. So this motion of the planet in the space was predicted by various scientists with respect to their assumptions. So here from this slide, we are going to see the assumptions made by the various scientists, various hypotheses we are going to see from this slide. The first prediction was given by the scientist Nicolaus Copernicus. The second prediction was made by the Ptolemies. The third prediction was given by Tycho Brahe. The fourth prediction is made by the Johannes Kepler, and the fifth prediction is made by the Isaac Newton. So they are the followers. So he just started this planetary motion, followed him, he given the correct solution. Here we are having some sort of the advantages and also some sort of the disadvantages. The disadvantages is nothing but drawbacks, unsatisfactory results. So these are drawbacks, these are disadvantages, this unsatisfactory result was overcome by the scientist Tycho. So here from his assumption, he made the success, and also there will be some failure. That failures will be overcome by the scientist Johannes Kepler. And finally, from the Kepler's, we are going to consider the Newton's law of gravitation. As I already informed, from the Newton's law of gravitation, we are going to make the corrections for the Kepler's third law. So it starts from the Nicolaus, and by the cycle, it reaches the Newton's. So these are all the just the invention as well as the predictions made by the scientists to explain the planetary motion of the orbits in the solar system. So Nicolaus first started his hypothesis. Here we are having the drawbacks as well as the merits. The merits are acceptable, the demerits are questionable. So the demerits are overcome by the second scientist. So here we are having the merits and the demerits. The demerits overcome by the third scientist. So here also merits and the demerits. The demerits overcome by the fourth scientist. Merits, demerits. The demerits overcome by the fifth scientist. So we are researching, we are learning. So here we just a prediction. We are predicting that there are some sort of changes in the planetary motion. That changes is made from these scientist hypothesis. Let's see. According to this first assumption, Ptolemy's assumption, he just said that the planets all circulated the Earth. So there are a lot of hypotheses, lot of predictions, lot of assumptions, but I have taken only one for the simple representation. So here, according to this author's assumption, he said that the planets all circulated the Earth. So this is the prediction, and this is also the failure. The second assumption is the Copernicus assumption. According to him, he developed a heliocentric model in which the planets all circulated the sun, but not the Earth. Here the first assumption is the planets all circulated the Earth. So this is the prediction, and this is also the unsatisfactory fact. According to the second assumption, Copernicus assumption, he developed a heliocentric model. He developed an heliocentric model in which he shown that all the planets are orbiting the sun, but not the Earth. All the planets are orbiting the sun, not the Earth. So his model included not only the heliocentric hypothesis, but also uniform circular motion. See, here also he predicted the motion is circular. The model indicates not only the heliocentric hypothesis, but also uniform circular motion. So this is the second assumption. And later on, Tycho Brahe, he assumed that the heliocentric model of the solar system has proposed by Copernicus, and it may be thought that its clear superiority over the Ptolemaic system could have recommended it to all practicing astronauts. So he just considered the assumption which was made by the Ptolemaics. So he never considered the Copernicus assumption. He just followed the Ptolemaic system, and he recommended that the practicing astronauts can follow the assumption which made by the Ptolemaics. So he given the position of the planets in the sky. He given the position of the planets in the sky. He devised new and better instruments which is able to make highly accurate observations of the position of the stars, sun, moon, and the planets. So he invented the highly accurate observation, that is an instrument which used to position the star, moon, sun, and the planets. So, and later, Johannes Kepler's assumption. So this Johannes Kepler's assumption predicts that all well observed planet that most departed from the circular motion. So this prediction is made after the death of Tycho. So Kepler received all his data to begin his great project of analyzing the motion of the Mars. So he just predicted the motion of the Mars. So he just followed the data which was kept by the Tychos. So what the just observation, what the data collected from the Tychos that was followed by the Kepler's after his death. And he was shown a well-observed planet that most departs from circular motion. So all predictions made that they are moving in the circular motion. So these all are in one day, it comes as a failure, because we know that the planets are moving in an elliptical order, not in the circular motion. For this, we are having theories also. So after 8 years of effect, Kepler discovered, actually after his just 8 years of effect in his research field for the planetary orbital motion, he formulated first two laws. That the first two laws are the Kepler's first law of planetary motion and Kepler's second law of the planetary motion. Then later on, after 9 years, he formulated the third law. It's called the Kepler's third law of the planetary motion. So these Kepler's laws of the planetary motion is in our syllabus. This is our syllabus. So to reach this part, to explain the Kepler's law of the planetary motion, we are not started directly the Kepler's law of planetary motion, but we started with some hypothesis. We started with some assumption. The assumption start from the Nicolaus Copernicus. They followed the Bartholomew's assumption, then Tycho, and then the Johannes Kepler's. So our content, our syllabus, only the Kepler's law of the planetary motion. So to study the Kepler's law of the planetary motion, we started with the Bartholomew's assumption. He said that the planets all circulated the Earth. Then we just followed the Copernicus assumption. He said that the planets are not orbiting the sun, orbiting the Earth, but they are orbiting the sun. Tycho Brahe's, he just given the position of the planet in the sky. He invented an instrument that used to make the observation of the star, sun, moon, and the planets. And after the death of the Tycho, Kepler formulated some laws to explain the motion of the particle in the space. So he formulated basically three laws. First Kepler's law of planetary motion, second Kepler's law of the planetary motion, and later on, after 9 years, he formulated the third Kepler's law of the planetary motion. So in our syllabus, we are going to study only this Kepler's law of the planetary motion. As we know, there are three laws. Kepler's first law of the planetary motion, Kepler's second law of the planetary motion, and Kepler's third law of the planetary motion. Let's start one by one. So here you can get your solution that the planet orbiting the sun, it's not on a circular motion, but the planet orbiting the sun, it's an elliptical motion. According to the Kepler's first law, the orbits of the planets around the sun are ellipse, with the sun at one focus. So here, from this, we can say that the planet orbiting the Earth, and also we can say that another one planet is orbiting the sun. The planet orbiting the sun and also the planet orbiting the Earth. So it is confirmed that it is predicted, it is finalized, suggested that the planets are orbiting only the sun but not the Earth. So according to these Johannes Kepler, he is the first hypothesis that the orbits of the planet around the sun are ellipse. The orbits of the planets around the sun are ellipse, with the sun at one focus. With the sun at one focus. An ellipse is a shape that is equidistant from two foci. An ellipse is a shape that is equidistant from two foci. So here we can consider any one point. From that we can just formulate and we can say that an ellipse is a shape that is equidistant from two foci. So here just we can see a semi-major axis, major axis, minor axis, and a semi-minor axis. So these are distance, it's considered as the semi-major axis. The distance, it's considered as a major axis. If you draw the graph, we can orbit the orientation. So here, this side, it's considered as a minor axis. Under this region, it's considered as a semi-minor axis. So here we can say that when it is just moving in a circular orbit, then there will be no eccentricity. When it is just moving in a model with a foci, then they have the moderated eccentricity. When it is just moving with the large foci, then they have the high eccentricity. So these things is just predicted from the Johannes Kepler from its first law. So we are going to see only these laws. The orbits of the planet around the sun are ellipse with the sun at one focus. The second law, it defined that a line from a planet to the sun sweeps over equal areas in equal interval of times. A line from a planet to the sun sweeps over equal area in equal interval of time. So from this law, we can say that when the planet is closer to the sun, when the planet is closer to the sun, so this region, when the planet is closer to the sun, and the line connecting it to the sun is shorter. The line connecting to the sun is shorter, and the planet move more rapidly. So what happens here? It moves very fast. The planet which orbiting the sun closer, they will move fast, and the planet which orbiting the sun with a long distance, they will move slow. So these regions is just mentioned here also. See, sun is orbited by the planets. The distance when it's short, when the distance it's short, its orbital motion is high. The movement is very high. When the distance is long, the movement is very slow. So the nearest distance here, it's called as the perihelion. The longest distance from the sun to the planet, it's called aphelion. So this from the second law. A line from a planet to the sun sweeps over equal area. The distance it's not equal. So this distance, the measured value is equal to this one. So this is just Johannes Kepler's third law. So according to him, he said that a planet's orbital period squared its proportional to its average distance from the sun cube. So he formulated a empirical formula. It is given as a p square is equal to a square, astronomical unit. where P is the orbital period in year and A is the distance from Sun. So P is the orbital period and A is the distance from the Sun. So here we are considering only the semi-major axis of the orbit's ellipse. Semi-major axis of the orbit ellipse. So here for these, just Kepler's third law, we can have an example. We say that the Jupiter's average distance from Sun is roundly 5.2 AU. Then the orbital period in years, the orbital period in years will be equal to 11.8 years. How it's possible? So to get this value, let substitute the just a data 5.2 AU in the obtained formula, the predicted formula. So we know P square is equal to A cube. So these in turns modified as P is equal to A 3 by 2. So these in turns written as P is equal to root of A 3 by 2. So it finally just becomes, after the substitution of the rough value 5.2, the term P is equal to 11.9 years. So these are all the predictions and the formulas given by the various scientists to explain the motion of the particles in their orbits, planetary motion in space. So the final conclusion from this Kepler's law, Kepler derived the laws from Tycho's extensive observations. So after the death of the Tychos, Kepler collected all his data, and with the observation of his data, he formulated 3 laws to explain the planetary motion of the orbit in the space. As we know that first law of the Kepler's, second law Kepler's, and the third law Kepler's. So here he predicted that the Keplers never knew what held the planets in their orbit or why continued to move around the sun. So this makes the drawback. Kepler's derived the laws from Tycho's extensive observation, not from any first principle, fundamental assumption, or theory. In fact, Kepler never knew what held the planets in their orbit and why continued to move around the sun. So this is the conclusion from the Kepler's law of the planetary motion. So this conclusion makes the further research behind the planetary motion. So that's why we are saying that the Newton's law of the gravitation gives the correction for the Kepler's third law of the planetary motion. So with this, we can end our today's class. So with a small video animated.
Kepler's law of planetary motion. Kepler's first law. The orbits of the planets are ellipses with the sun at one focus of the ellipse. There is no object at the other focus of the planet's orbit. The semi-major axis A of an orbit is the average distance between the planet and the sun. As a planet travels in its elliptical orbit, its distance from the sun and speed vary. A planet moves most rapidly when it is nearest the sun or at perihelion. A planet moves more slowly when it is the farthest from the sun or at aphelion. Kepler's second law. The line joining the planet to the sun sweeps out equal areas in equal times as the planet travels around the ellipse. This is also known as the law of equal areas. Suppose a planet takes 1 day to travel from point A to B. During this day, an imaginary line from the sun to the planet will sweep out an area. The same area will be swept every day. Here, the areas A1 and A2 are equal and the time T1 and T2 are also equal. Kepler's third law. The ratio of the squares of the revolutionary periods for two planets is equal to the ratio of the cubes of their semi-major axis. T square is directly proportional to r cube. So, T square by r cube is equal to Kepler's constant. Recapitulation. Kepler's law of planetary motion.
Will your child win free education for life?
So actually that's all for the today's lecture.